Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you may be in the world. This is Thoughtful Nuggets and Pearls on Gift of Healing TV. I'm Sara Jane, and I am delighted to be welcoming to the programme back again my sister Jackie. Jackie, thank you for joining me yet again.
Thank you for inviting me again.
Our topic for this evening is honesty. And this is something in fact, we were talking before it even started about sort of something that happened earlier this year within the family, where I was the one who started it. I was totally honest about something with the family for a change, because I think we're all very good at just trying to please everybody and not doing things for ourselves and going against the grain for ourselves. And I know it caused ructions, didn't it, Jackie?
Just a few. Just a few. But it's turned out to be something that's been really good.
Yeah.
So that little bit of discomfort has actually turned out, and it's like it's given permission, and we're all now testing the waters with actually being honest about what we would like, or we're not being selfish, we're being honest, and then we're making some compromises. But at least people know we're doing the compromises, or we know somebody else's, which is quite good. Wouldn't you agree, Sarah?
Oh, this is just it. How many times have I mentioned about being true to yourself on these programs? And you and I have talked about it. But I lived that. I actually did it. It's not the only time I've done it, but it's not necessarily been quite to the extent where I was asked something and I said a flat no. And it was just, and we won't go into what it was. It doesn't matter what it was. It was a total honest answer from myself. No, I'm not happy for that, and I am not prepared for it. Full stop. Yeah. And there was a compromise, but it didn't compromise me. Yeah. My no stood.
Yeah.
So yes, there were compromises made, but it wasn't a compromise that made me do something to the degree that I'd said no to. And I think that was the point. And we were saying before that, sort of with Christmas coming up, because yes, as you can see, there's a Christmas tree behind Jackie. So although we're talking about this at Christmas time, it is really important all year round for honesty, because obviously this was several months ago that this thing happened. And what we've actually found within the families is we've all started saying, actually, whereas before we'd have just gone along with everything, we're now saying, actually, I'd rather.
Yeah.
And you're doing you. I don't have children, so I'm obviously doing it with Mum, with you, and my other sister Katie. So I'm friends. Whereas obviously you've got kids, and you're now doing exactly the same with them and encouraging them to do the same with you.
Yeah, I think it's the encouraging them to do the same with me, and I think that it's a very interesting one, because actually I want them to be really honest, and I've got 3 children and 5 grandchildren, and especially with Christmas coming up, they've got all these different ties and things with them. But also because 2 of my children have got children, they've got Christmas Day, they don't want to be driving around everywhere. They don't want to have the children in the car the whole day. Actually, they want to have a family day with opening the presents and having their lunch, and if anybody wants to go and see them, they're more than happy for that. And I think it's wonderful that they've got that permission to say that, because I don't think we, when we were growing up, were given that permission. The invitation was there, and it was an expectation, and that was really what we did. And I think especially over the Christmas time, and it's something you said earlier, Sarah, is the fact that we all do all these things to please everybody. And actually, the majority of the time, what I've found with the children when I've talked to them is we're all doing the same. And actually, if we had all been honest, we could have come to something that we would have all been happy with, instead of everybody being maybe a little bit uptight and maybe a little bit close to the edge, which causes these arguments because everybody's doing something to please everybody else. Nobody's quite getting it right. And an argument happens or whatever. And I'm not talking about being brutally honest and being mean. I'm talking about being honest with a kindness and a respect, and actually giving other people permission to say what they'd prefer as well.
Oh, exactly. And I think, you know, but I also think this is about some people actually like their own company and other people don't.
Yeah.
And I think it's really a matter of thinking about that, being honest about which you are. And there are going to be times when you may like your own company, and you feel you've got to give up a little bit of your own company to be with others because they don't like their own company. So it's also thinking about the people that are lonely at Christmas. And so, and I know you and I have talked about this, and I turned round to Katie because Katie lives locally to me in Bournemouth. And she said, "Oh, come round, Sarah, come round, Sarah." And, you know, sort of my friend and myself, who both own this house, we've actually turned around and said, well, he knows a couple of people, 2 or 3 people possibly, that would be on their own at Christmas. And we've said, actually, what we would like to do for a change is possibly say to them, would they like to come round for Christmas lunch? Yeah. Now, I know that's not spending it with family, but maybe it's just a little bit of giving back at Christmas. Yeah. And then getting quality time with my nieces and nephews separately, rather in a way that they're there because their parents have asked them to be there, you know, because it's great. I've got 5 nieces and nephews. I can't see them all at the same time. And as much as I love them, I prefer not to. Yeah, but seeing them separately, I get a chance to actually see them and talk to them and find out what's going on. When you've got them in a great big group, it gets really difficult, and it's lovely. You saw your oldest fairly recently after Mum's op. You know, so it's, do you know what it is? We're talking about honesty because that is something that I've been saying it for quite a while about being honest with yourself, and therefore having to be honest with other people. And I actually bit the bullet and did it.
And I think it was very brave because there was a spell that was very uncomfortable. And I think one of the beautiful things about both Sarah and I is I think we've had this wonderful opportunity to have a lot of communication with a lot of people. And we've learned quite a few things. You know, we still both make mistakes at times and everything else. I'm not saying we're perfect, but I respected Sarah enormously for actually saying no. It was taken quite hard initially, and there was a little bit of softening up to be done and a little bit of talking in between. And I think just now, Sarah, you said something about that there are 2 sort of different types of people. There are people who like to have company and be around. They don't like their own company. And there are people who actually quite like their own company. I think there's another type of person that actually quite likes to be the martyr. Yeah. And actually, when they're being the martyr, they've got another conversation to have. Of course, I'm doing this for them and all these different bits and pieces. And I think it's about, okay, if that's what helps them and everything else, but actually, when we start saying our own truth, we take away. And I suppose the reason I say it is, and I've mentioned it before in programs, is I was in an emotionally abusive marriage for a number of years. And so therefore I was made to feel guilty about different things, and I had pressure put on me and everything else. But actually, when you're honest, people can no longer put that pressure on you. Yeah, exactly. Because you have been honest about what it is that's right, and you make a compromise that you all choose to do. And if they've made that choice, they've made that choice, but they've made that choice with an honesty that's been going on. If they've chosen not to be quite honest, that's their choice. But it actually helps to take away that emotional blackmail that people can have on you. Well, I did this for you and I did that. Because when you've been honest, you take away that power that they seem to have. And I think it is empowering for everybody. and maybe a little bit uncomfortable for people who have enjoyed being the martyr, the however you want to phrase. And I'm not phrasing it in a way that I'm meaning to be disrespectful to anybody. I truly am not. I think we get into habits and rucks, you know, or ruts of how we do things, and we don't quite realise why we do them.
But I think that also goes back to the conversation I'm sure we've had before, which is about, we do things for people thinking, right, if I do that for them, they'll do that for us. But that's about the honesty thing. If there is something you would like somebody to do, ask. They've got two things they can say to you, yes or no.
There's the amazing book, and I think I've mentioned it before, and I just love the beginning of it, The Invitation by Oriah Mountain Dreamer.
Yeah, you have.
And it's just absolutely beautiful in the fact that suddenly you become aware of, oh, maybe I was just doing that because I expected somebody else to do that. And actually they've got their own life, their own plans. And if they then say no to me, I've got no reason to feel bad about that or fed up with them or whatever else, because actually I should have no expectations of anybody else. Yeah. None at all. And I'm listening to one by Byron Katie at the moment, her latest book. And I listen in audiobooks. And oh my goodness, I'm learning a lot from there. There are still some things that feel a bit alien to me, very alien. But I have an understanding and a recognition, and something seems to resonate in me of, oh, actually, she's onto something. It's still just that little bit outside my comfort zone. You know, it's not my norm. It's not what I've been brought up with. But actually, I'm open to listening. And sometimes when you listen, you suddenly hear that next bit or the missing piece of the jigsaw puzzle. And I think that's all part of honesty as well. Yeah. It's saying, actually, I don't quite understand why I did that, or why I asked that, or why I expected that. It's just a habit, you know.
And I think that's exactly what our family Christmases were when we were kids. They were a habit. Mum and Dad had a small hotel in Torquay, and what Mum's parents lived in a sort of like granny flat as part of the building, and Dad's parents lived over in Shildon. And it was just an accepted fact that it was the whole family on Christmas Day. So Mum, Dad, the three daughters, the four grandparents on Christmas Day.
And relatives. And relatives. Sorry? We might have had Auntie Eileen down, or...
Yes, occasionally. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I think the one clarifying thing there is, you know, Sarah, you say a small hotel. But in a way, to some people, actually, it was a blooming lovely house.
Oh,
it
yes.
was classed as an old Victorian villa with huge rooms and great big log fire. And, you know, I mean, we were very blessed. You know, our parents weren't wealthy. They worked really, really hard. Yeah. But we had quite a privileged upbringing. Yeah. But our parents were only children. So therefore, they didn't have to pull different people from different families. They had their sets of parents, whereas we were three daughters. So we then had to bring husbands, partners, children, everything else. And it all sort of carried on for years and years. And then we almost felt guilty when there were Christmases because we had other members of the family that on our own extended families that we needed to keep happy. And it was, how do you do that? And how do you keep people happy? And I think for a long time, we all agreed, you know, or no, we all just agreed. We didn't even think about it. It was a habit. Yeah. And I think 3 years ago, when it came to, was it my 50th birthday? I was terrified that my family would think that they could give me a surprise party, because Sarah said earlier, it's nice to have little groups of the family and get a chance to talk to them. And I like that. I do not like big groups. I really don't.
I've got past it.
The thought of having everybody there that came in and not getting a chance to really speak to people and being on your best behavior and doing all this, I just did not want it. And I actually, when my children would talk to me or something, I would go, you know, don't do it. It will absolutely. And I think to you, Sarah, I was like, please make sure nobody does this, because it would be the worst thing anybody could do for me. It wouldn't be a present, it wouldn't be a gift, and it wouldn't be a surprise. So I had the courage then to say it, that that was not what I wanted, just because it was other members of the family's ideal and they'd love that. Definitely wasn't my idea of fun.
But I think how many of us have done things like that, and we haven't done it for ourselves, but we've done it for the other people because we think that's what they want. I had a big 50th. It wasn't my idea of fun.
Yeah.
It really wasn't. You know, I had groups of friends from this, group of friends from that, groups of friends from the other, family, you know, and it was just like, we had 50 odd people at the house.
Yeah, and
it was just
how many of them did you get a chance to really talk to and have a conversation with?
None of them.
Yeah.
It wasn't even one or two, it was none. So, and I certainly didn't get time to spend with my family, with my mum and my dad and my sisters, my nieces and nephews. Lovely to have everybody there, but it's back to being honest.
And what are the memories that you want to make as well? Because all of these occasions are memories that we're making.
Yeah.
And you know, I think the subject of honesty can go so much deeper in so many different directions, but because of the time of the year that we're at, I think, you know, we made a decision that it was going to be around this, you know, around this time of year, or family occasions and different bits and pieces.
They've just had Thanksgiving in America.
Oh, I wish we had Thanksgiving over here to be grateful for everything. And it's something that I wish. And somebody said to me, one of my friends in America said to me the other week, I was on a call with her, and she said, why don't you just do it? Just because you don't have it officially in the UK, why don't you just do it? And I thought, oh,
valid point.
Maybe I could. You know, it's another one of those things you think, because it's not ours, you know, maybe I can embrace some of that as well.
But then could we not do it on okay, I have 3 children, you have, I haven't.
Yeah.
I have 3 children, I have 4 children, I have 2 children, I have whatever. I would like to be able to spend a little bit of time with each of them. So why don't I pick a weekend X times a year in the year? Definitely. So one for each of them. So they could be 3 months apart, 4 months, depending on how many kids you've got. Do you know what? There are so many ideas. Think outside the box and think, I am going to have a Sunday lunch or a Saturday lunch or a barbecue or whatever. And it is going to be for that little bit of my family. Then it's going to be for that little bit, and have the real pleasure. Now, I've said for my 60th, being very selfish because I like experiences, I have every intention of doing a wing walk. Now, whether I'll get to actually do it on my birthday, but Jackie's putting faces, I'm going to do a wing walk. I don't want a big 60th. I had the 50th, and it was lovely to see everybody. But as we said, I didn't get to speak to them.
Let's be honest.
What happens at Christmas? How many people do you get to speak to?
Yeah.
Would you prefer to be going out for a walk rather than spending all that time slaving over a hot cooker, oven, whatever you want to call it, a stove? That's the old, I think is the old word for it. Slaving over a hot stove. You're the one who's doing all the work. Then it's all the clearing up afterwards. Everybody else is falling to sleep on the settee with the television on or off. Yeah, if you're lucky enough to have an open fire in front of a log fire, and somebody is still out there doing all the tidying up, you're not actually having much of a family thing, because one person or 2 people, unless they get loads of help, is ending up with an awful lot of work to make it work for everybody else.
I think it's about looking at what are the bits that work and what are the bits that don't work. Because I mean, you know, we were lucky when we were growing up. We would then spend, you know, okay, Mum spent a lot of time out in the kitchen, and I don't think she ever really enjoyed any of those Christmases, if she's honest, because she actually spent more time in the kitchen. But she would then come out and we'd play Scrabble and Monopoly and you name it. And now, when we've been up, because our sister Katie has got a lovely sized home and there's enough room for all of us. And we've had a few Christmases where we've sat round the dining room table there playing a game called Bananagrams. And that has caused much laughter. We won't go into why, I don't think, not on this. It might be a family show. But you know, it has caused so much laughter and everything else. Now, those are the moments that I absolutely love and I treasure. They create the memories. And yes, the meal was absolutely beautiful or whatever else. But the moments that cause the memories are the moments where we had all the laughter, where we had the giggles, where we, you know, we were maybe a little bit competitive and that caused laughter as well. But they were the moments in which I call real family. And those are the moments that I love to recreate. And they're the joy. But some of the ones where it's too much and you haven't got time to speak and you haven't got time to spend with people, and I think your idea is spending these different times of the year with different people and making sure you get that. I do still think it's nice to have some family occasions, but I would prefer to go out and have a meal somewhere else, even though I'm not as keen on their cooking usually at the pubs and places. But I would rather not have all the cooking, not have all the washing up, not have all the stuff around it. I would prefer just to be out.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. That's just me. Hey, I was sensible. I moved to somewhere much smaller nearly 4 years ago. In fact, it's 4 years ago in 2 days' time. And now I haven't got room for the whole family. So we need to do something different. So, you know, it's lovely having them. I can have small elements of them, but now that they've got so many children between them, it's a bit of a squeeze, and the kids are growing. But you know, it's been lovely, and I think this has been an interesting subject to start, just to give people something to think about.
I remember as a kid though, because Grandpa's birthday was Boxing Day, so Christmas was a huge family celebration for our family. It really was, and so Mum's dad's birthday was Boxing Day, and there was a family that lived next door to them over in Shaldon. So when they'd been living over there as well, and they would come over, and we would play a card game called Sneak with 2 packs of cards because there were so many of us, and the 2s and 4s and the 8s and the jacks and the aces and the whatever they did, and the cheating that went on. But the laugh,
we would gang up on people.
It was usually nice for Grandpa.
In a nice way. We'd gather the 2s and the 4s and everything else, wouldn't we?
And make them pick up all those cards.
Oh my goodness, I remember that.
We had so much fun and there was so much laughter. And so being honest is essential. Bringing the fun and the laughter back into it. So not everybody's going to want to play every type of game. I remember New Year's with neighbours when I was living in Northampton, and we would get the Jenga out. Or some people may call it Jenga, but it's Jenga. The J to me is a Y, which is the 3 building blocks one way, and then it goes the other way. And there would be a whole group of us from our road that would get together in different people's houses, and we'd get the Jenga out, and we'd all be stood around the table, and it would build and build, and you think, oh, we'll get another go, and you get another go, and then it would go. But it was hilarious. And then we get past the pigs out, and that is just a simple game, but it caused so much hilarity. And it's fine, the simple thing. And isn't that just it? Why can't we be honest and get back to the simple things in life that don't cause arguments, that can cause a great deal of hilarity, and don't have to actually be expensive and cost huge amounts of money?
Do you know, I think it's really interesting. I was speaking to my daughter yesterday about my granddaughter. My granddaughter, who is 7, has just given her Christmas list to her mummy, and it has only 3 things on it. Just 3. One of them is something that I've got her that's not expensive, you know, genuinely not expensive. One is I think it's do it yourself slime or something, making slime, and it's again not expensive. And the other one is not expensive. Oh, the other one is a pen from a shop called Smiggle or something, and that is all she's asked for. But that could be because last Christmas she asked for a baby brother or sister, and she got a baby brother this year. So last year on Christmas Day, she was given a T-shirt and a picture of the scan of the baby. And maybe now she's realised that if she asks for things too big, it takes up Mum and Dad's time. So it could be she's learned that lesson. Don't ask for too much.
So, but yeah, how sweet, you know, sort of. It's just, So
Oh, amazing. Just beautiful that it is back to some of those simple things. And Mia just loves going for walks, and she loves doing art things and crafts and everything else. And I just think that's beautiful. But it just, we sidetracked a little bit, but I just think.
But I don't know, I think we've gone into it. It's very much about being honest and actually taking ourselves back and thinking, whether it's Easter, whether it's summer holidays, whether it's Christmas, whether it's whatever the other religious holidays throughout the year for other religions are, it doesn't really matter. Big birthdays. It's actually, what does the individual, what would
the person who's
they like?
The person whose occasion it is. Because my daughter, well, I just said she had a baby this year and whatever else. And some of her friends put on a beautiful baby shower for her. You know, I mean, I've never heard really of, I'd heard of them in America, but not really over here. Beautiful baby shower. But if I'm honest, it wasn't the type of thing that my daughter would have liked. It was the type of thing that her amazing friend who had organised it liked.
Yeah.
And you know, for my daughter, it was just like, you know, she was so thrilled that her friend had gone to all of that effort. Please don't get me wrong, but she said to me, she said, it's not what I would have chosen. You know, she loved the fact that, you know, her friends had done that. So definitely don't get me wrong, she was not being ungrateful, but it was the person who had organised it around what they liked rather than. And I think when people can be more honest, so my son asked me something the other day to do with Christmas, and I said, actually, no, I wouldn't really feel very comfortable. I hope you don't mind. And he was absolutely fine, but he was asking me about something, and it would have just meant I wouldn't have been around people that I really knew or whatever else. I would have known him, and I struggle a bit with anxiety and stuff anyway, so it's not where I'd be in my comfort zone. And I just was, nah, is that okay? I hope you don't mind, but I'd rather not. Go back even 12 months and I wouldn't have had the confidence to have said no, you know. And now I heard myself say the words and I thought, was that me? So it, you know, when we first practice things, it can feel a bit uncomfortable, but actually it gets easier. And suddenly you realize you're just being honest without even really realizing it. And you're staying kind and respectful at the same time.
Yeah.
And that was something that I was just like, oh, wow. You know, I just did that without thinking. And I said it. And I definitely didn't hurt him. And he understood. And I just explained. And I said, but if you're doing this, I'd happily do that. As in, if you invite me up just for the daytime, and we have a bite to eat, and then we all go out for a walk or we play games or something, but then I can go home in the evening rather than stay overnight. Actually, I'd be fine with that. And I said, I'd rather be there thinking, oh, I wish I'd said that I'd stay the night, than be there having agreed to stay the night and be going, I want to go home, and just thinking it inside and whatever else. And he understood. And I think he respected me more for having said it.
And do you know, that's what we all have to realize is our being honest nicely is what people want to hear.
It is.
They don't want, you know, and if they don't like what we've said, then I'm not being funny, but it's a bit tough.
Yeah.
Because we do have to be. When I said no earlier this year, yes, it caused ructions for a while. Jackie was there. She did her bit. We got round there. But it actually resulted in the person I'd said no to, who'd asked and I'd said no to, actually then came out a little while later with a no of their own.
Yeah, I know.
At a time, they would
never have said a no in the past. They would never have said a no in the past. Absolutely not. And I agree with you 100%. And it was like, and I think what we're doing within the family, we're all finding our feet with this new permission to actually be honest. And I think that's where the bravery that Sarah had, and yes, it wasn't taken very well to start with because it was such a shock. So we can't gloss over it and pretend it wasn't. you know, when you change the routine in something, then, you know, it can cause, yeah, but we're over it. We're only a couple of months down the line, and we're actually all being way more honest with each other. And it's lovely. It's really nice. It's like, why didn't we do this 30 years ago?
Yeah.
You know, and so if sharing what we've got to share can help give somebody the courage to do that within their own family or within their own work situation, their own friends situation, whatever it is, if it just gives somebody the courage to do that, if just one person has that courage, this time that we've spent here has been worth it. And actually, Sarah, our 5-minute thoughtful nuggets and pearls is now half an hour.
I know. I'm very aware of that.
We do it every time. We talk,
do.
and I hope it's been good for everybody. I hope something good's come from it.
Yeah, I know that, but we have shared from a true perspective of what has happened within our family, and accepting the fact that, you know, it's not going to be easy, and it'll be easier the second time and easier still the third time. But you know, once the honesty kicks in, actually everybody gets the, you know, there's going to be times when you think, oh, that's a bit of a shame, but it'll work perfectly. It really will, because we do appreciate family dynamics are different with everybody. Friends dynamics are different. It doesn't matter whether it's family, friends, work, it doesn't matter what it is. Start being honest. I tried to do it as nicely as possible, but I was blunt. I've got to the stage where I didn't want them to come back and say and try and talk me out of it, because there was no two ways about the fact that some of the things that were said were trying to talk me out of it, and it was just like, no.
But I think that this is where we within our family, we've got so used to a language and a communication of some of the guilt trips.
Yeah.
And I think the thing is that Sarah was brave enough to stick to her no and everything else, and that did make, you know, but it was, yes, it was brave, but yes, in the long run, I think that as a family, we have all only gained from it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'll say is that there are some situations you may be in where you can't quite do that. And if you can't do it because of a risk of safety and different things like that, there's another subject to think of. There's something else to consider there. If you think, oh, I can't because it will cause problems for somebody else, or this, that, and the other, then there's maybe a little bit more deeper thinking that needs to go into this. What is causing that? So I do think that we're not thinking about that.
It was a circumstance where it was okay to say no.
So it is about that. Sarah, I'm going to have to say, I didn't plug my laptop in before we started, and
we really want to draw to a close anyway.
It's going to run out soon, and so if I suddenly go blank screen, you will know it's because my battery ran out. I've got this little thing on my computer going, you've only got 8% of your battery left, and I'm thinking, okay.
I think Jackie, thank you so much. And folks, I hope that what we've shared gives you food for thought. And think, actually, maybe I should be a bit more honest. You know, and please do be, for your own sake, because boy, it causes frictions to start with, but it will work out. I promise you, it will work out. And everybody, in long term, it might not be to start with, but long term it will be fine. Right. Next week, I will be back. I am going to do a thoughtful nuggets and pearls on procrastination self-sabotage.
That's what I should be joining you on.
Well, if you want to join me, but at the moment it's just me, and we will see what happens with that one. That's next week. Please do think about joining. I've got a meditation the week after that, and then between Christmas and New Year, I'm going to do a sound bath. And I've realised just recently I can do light language, so there's going to be a mix of that, I think, within the meditation and within the sound bath. So that takes care of the rest of December. So folks, thank you for joining us. Jackie, thank you for joining me, and laying our family bare to everybody.
No.
Love, peace and light to you all. Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you.